Hey, welcome back to the Business of Bytes podcast. I am one of your hosts, John Hansman, here with my good friend Emilio Mejia. I totally butchered it. I messed it up. Oh, you're muted. And Ryan Miller. Miller's a lot easier to say than Emilio's last name. So I butchered it, and I've known you for a while, and I've still butchered your name. That's super sad. I'm sorry.
We'll keep working on it. Episode 56, we'll have it right down.
Exactly. Well, this is the cybersecurity podcast where we make cybersecurity make sense for the small, medium-sized business. We're going to talk about how much your business is already exposed to cybercriminals. So most people don't realize that cyber criminals probably already have enough information to get started. They just need a little more. That's what we're going to talk about today. I think it's going to be a really great conversation. We're going to talk about how cyber criminals dive into public information. And this is how, if you've ever got an email from a scammer, how they seem to know who you are and know a lot about you. The reality is there's a lot of information out there already. We're all on Facebook. Maybe not all of us, but most of us are on Facebook. I recently got myself a data scrubber, like a software subscription I pay for that actually scrubs me off the internet, except for what I put on. So it goes and looks for that information on the dark web and gets rid of it. But there's a lot of information about you on the internet, most likely, that you probably don't realize exists. So we're going to get to that, and then we're going to work on our bite-sized brilliance at the end. We're going to give you some simple ways to assess your business online footprint. So a lot to get to today. I think it's going to be an awesome conversation. So Ryan, let's start simple. If hackers aren't breaking into your systems, how are they learning so much about us?
There's just a ton of data out there. We've all heard of the dark web. The dark web's a scary, dark place that, the hackers and the criminals are sharing data and selling data. And there's just so much information out there. Just going into Google and typing your name in, you'll have pages and pages and pages, thousands of hits on yourself if you've done anything on the web. And there's so many tools out there to search all of that. And that's where the hackers start. And they don't really need much more than that to get their job started.
Yeah.
So think of it like digital people watching, right? Hackers don't need secrets. They use your public information. I'll give you guys some example, right? I'm sure everyone has created a password or some type of system with their kids' names, their birthdays, their dog's names, their favorite color. And I bet that if I go on someone's Facebook, I can find some of that information out. I can find maybe your mother's maiden name. I can probably, if I search deep enough, depending how much you post, see where you went to middle school, high school, or elementary. I can probably see your dog's name. If I look at enough pictures or what you wear, I might be able to figure out your favorite color eventually. So all of this is also considered social engineering, but it's information that we put out there in the public. And hackers can use that to access your things. Think about your credit card or your banking when they say, hey, what's the answer to your secret question? What if it's something that can be publicly found and the person can then have access? That's one example. Another example is when companies put some of this information out on their websites. And we'll touch on that a little bit later. But yeah, that's my stance for now. I'll circle it back to you, John.
Well, here's the thing to think about, and people are really guilty of this, and it actually drives me absolutely bonkers when you see people who do that reposting thing on Facebook where they post the 21 or 100 things you should know about me, and it's like, where were you born? What was your dog's name? What was your first school? Like, it's
Here's all my security questions. Here's all my security questions all together. Enjoy.
100%. It's like the craziest thing, and people just copy and repost. And a long time ago, I'm waiting for a knucklehead to put it back on Facebook. So if you're watching and you're one of those who likes to do the repost thing, tag me, and so I can use you as a video example. So Brian's laughing. I did a video a while ago where I took the the information, like just the header, and I posted it into search in Facebook. And I could publicly see all the people who had filled out that form and done that survey.
Wow.
And it was hundreds and hundreds of people. So like if you see anything on Facebook where somebody is reposting something, you can go search the header or at least the spot that's the same in every single one of those. And you can go get the list of all the people who did that and their answers. Now think about this. If you're a hacker and you started a fun little way to communicate with your friends and your friends will learn about you thing, and you're trying to gather information discreetly and people do that kind of stuff and they will, and you can find a way to get something to pass around, and all you got to do is in like 4 months go search and figure out how many people filled it out, you're going to win and you're going to grab a bunch of information from people and you already know their first and last name and you all of a sudden know a bunch about them. So we're not only is your information available in places it shouldn't be because people got hacked and now there's stuff on the dark web, you're giving your shit away. Stop it. It's insanity. Like, why are you giving away that information? Like, we're already, and I do this, we're already guilty of like showing pictures of our kids and there's facial recognition. There's all this stuff going on. I'm doing a podcast, so now people can AI my voice and makes things that sound like me, like they did with, George W. Bush. But when you're giving away obvious information that you have filled out in a security questionnaire for your bank, you can't fix stupid.
No, you can't.
And I might offend some people, and that's cool. Whatever. Stop doing that because it's completely dumb. So, anyways, that's my soapbox. For those probably like.
So that's on the personal side. If we jump into business a little bit, there's a lot of things that small business, not just any business. I mean, not just say small business. We'll put on their websites that if you really look at the intricacies of it, hackers can use. I've dealt with prospects and I've ran across websites where they have the whole business directory in there. They have phone numbers to the offices and they have emails and names.
Totally.
That's enough for me to at least start targeting out in titles and departments. So I can at least start targeting, all right, these people are in finance. If I target them with finance
phishing emails.
Finance adjacent phishing emails. I might get a bite here or there, So just it's what you put on your websites. Don't put more than you need to type thing.
Yeah, we use that a lot. We talk to people a lot when we, in fact, they're a really great target for cold calling for me. Because it shows that you're not necessarily thinking about cybersecurity. Most good marketing firms are going to do all the call to actions through forms. And they do that on purpose. It's actually not just so they can collect your information, although that's always part of it. But the biggest security reason is it keeps people from sending you spam emails and knowing your email address. And, it's not always hard to figure out that information, but I don't think you should just make it easy.
Yeah, it's phenomenal what's out there and what can be gained. I'm reviewing phishing emails all the time for clients. We get at least a couple a day from different clients because we ask them to forward them into us. And the data that these people have already about someone, and it's just basically a cold email, and they already have their signature because they scrubbed their signatures from some other email somewhere. They have their dog's name. They have their phone number, all set. And sometimes they'll even have the person's picture in the signature of their email. And they're just getting that off the web and off the dark.
Yeah. And I mean, there's always going to be a certain amount of information that's just out there. Like there's a lot of marketing tools that are out there to find information. In fact, I have one on my website that actually allows me to see somewhat of who's been on my website, and it automatically pulls information from its database of phone numbers that you could potentially call. So, like, there's information out there for marketing. It's used for non-malicious reasons, unless you consider marketing really malicious. Some people do.
Some people do, some people don't.
Yeah, right. But there's a lot of information out there that you can literally find cell phones. It's not hard to find an executive's cell phone these days.
It isn't, but to John's point,
money and go to one of the major platforms for sales and marketing and find a cell phone. It's not hard.
But to your point, if someone's looking for a product or doing something, it's different than my boss putting my email on a website and then someone finding it through that. So if you're shopping, if you're researching, and someone has your information because you're on their website, it's kind of the give. One of my marketing teachers was talking last week, and he said at one point, us, society, civilization decided that the internet should be free, that you should be able to access things freely. And they said, okay, you can. So what's going to cost? What's going to cost? Your data, your information.
Right.
They get access to your data, your information. You have free access to the internet. So we've made that decision. But a business putting that information out there from their employees so that now they can be targeted, I think it's slightly different conversation.
So we've got a question from Freddie. Do you share your password with anyone, and how long have you been hacked? Kindly message me for legal assistance if you haven't got any help with recovery.
Someone promoting on our platform?
Somebody is like trying to promote themselves. Goodbye, Freddie. That's funny. We'll turn that off. That's hilarious. Do you share your password with anyone, and how long have you been hacked? Kindly message me for whose Facebook did that come in on?
I have no idea, but that is pretty. I popped that up because that's just an example of how people get data and just pull it, and just amazing how and no matter how sophisticated somebody thinks they are, they can still fall for this. And and then somebody might overhear someone talking in a restaurant in a booth behind them, and they might have the dog's name and their girlfriend, boyfriend's name without even asking a single question or even prying at all.
Yeah.
So we've touched on this briefly, but now let's segment into someone obtains this information. How can they actually do some damage?
So, if you get a dog's name or a pet's name, the secret questions that say, who's your first pet? Who's your first dog? Who's your first whatever? Where's your school? A lot of that's really publicly available. So when you answer those questions, the best thing is to if it's saying who's your first pet, answer the street you grew up on, because you don't want to put that out there and make it easy for someone. So, or just answer a random thing, but record that somewhere in an encrypted password keeping program. So that's one real easy way for people to reset passwords or to gain access to information they shouldn't have.
Right. Yeah, that's totally true.
It's not always about, is this information sensitive? It's just, if I have enough of this information, what can I piece together? What puzzle can I build with all your information that then will allow me to maybe call your bank? And they're like, oh, we got to verify you. And I'm like, all right, I have their address because they posted a picture of, they posted a selfie in the corner of their house where I could see the intersection. I could see the house number in the mailbox. So I got that. I have the phone number because, they have their about me and they have the phone number there. So let's assume that the person on the bank line is asking you security questions and now you can answer them all. Boom, you've now accessed their bank account or something like that. It's not exactly like, oh, it's not my social security number and it's not my birthday. But if I can piece a lot of little things together to just formulate some type of storyline in your life, and then I can use that to socially or reverse social engineer you, that's all I need. Another instance we had was a company listed all their software vendors and things like that. Their stack is what we call it in the IT world. So now imagine a hacker has like a target, right? He's like, all right, I just need to know how to get into this defense, and maybe this firewall. Oh, this firewall had an exploit 2 years ago. I wonder if they patched it. Let me check, right? Did they not patch it? Did they patch it? Something like that. So
exactly,
you always need to be careful. It's not exactly what you're putting out there that you might think it's sensitive or not. It's just someone can use that maliciously and find a way to use it that you weren't thinking about.
Yeah. So why do you think small businesses are too small to be attacked?
Why do they think they're too small? They're too small to be attacked.
Yeah.
Everybody want to go? I can take it if nobody wants to.
Well, I think there's two things. My experience is it's a lot. Usually when I hear that, oh, we're too small for that, most of the time it's because there's this idea, well, I've been in business for 35 years and it's never happened to me. And I think there's a lack of education about how things have changed. Like you can see all of the really big clients, and I think those are the only ones that really show up on the news. Like when you look at, oh, it's always the school districts, it's always the cities, it's always the big businesses, but that doesn't show up in everyday life unless you are talking to people, or unless you're in our industry where you see it every day. And I think it's lack of knowledge, it's lack of education. And I think honestly, it's a really good excuse to not spend money.
It's a when, it's not an if anymore.
Yeah, right.
It's a when. And I tell every client that, and they just, they look at you with deer in headlights, and, then they're calling, a couple weeks later saying, oh, I got this phishing email. Can you inspect it? Or they shoot the phishing email over.
Yeah.
Oh, it happens all the time. I have that on my website, Ryan. As soon as you log in, it says it's not a question of if, it's when you're going to be hacked. I think the other thing that happens, as John mentioned, this wasn't happening 6 years ago. Well, maybe it started about 5 or 6 years ago, but pre-COVID, this wasn't a big thing. And not only was it not a big thing, there's no social media page where you go to see who got hacked, right? There's no news segment of, hey, who was hacked today? No one is coming out and bragging about this type of stuff. No one brags about being hacked.
No one does.
Right?
I mean, I've run across clients that I've known, they're like really popular in our area. Like everybody knows who they are, who had a cybersecurity incident, and we never knew because it just wasn't advertised. Right.
Unless
no one's going to be like, yay, I got hacked, right? But when a big company gets hacked, they show up on the news. And I think we're also, just like everything else in the media, we're a victim of oversaturation. Mm-hmm. So we're oversaturated with news. We're oversaturated of all these things that happen. And it gets you this real easy mindset of saying, well, I'm only seeing the banks and the cities and the big people, not realizing that it's literally happening to everyone. I think the other part of that, I don't think, back to Eric's question about why businesses think they're too small to get hacked. I think people think they're too small for it to impact them.
Oh, I love that.
Think of it this way. We've probably all run across the guy who says, oh, I'll just go buy all new computers. Right? In his mind, it's an easy fix if he gets hacked.
Or I only use cloud applications. People think that if they use cloud
or any of the other stuff that's happening.
Yeah. It's just the craziness. The other example, a good example, is when somebody's looking for a new employee, when there's a job posting out, a lot of times they'll say, hey, you have this type of software. We want you to have knowledge of this type of software. Well, now you've given the hacker out there some intel on what you have going on your network. So now they're getting back to Emilio's point of the vulnerable firewall that hasn't been patched in 2 years. Well, maybe they have some kind of ERP system, some kind of CRM system out there that is known to be vulnerable, especially ones that aren't supported anymore. You see that a lot because they want to hire somebody that knows this old system that's not supported anymore. Well, if you know that, you can go in and you can hit that and attack that as a hacker. That's just information. They're just waiting to be, they might as well leave their front doors open. Yeah. They're waiting to be hacked.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's again, it's not a matter of if, but when. And I think the scale of attack and what it's going to cost is really underestimated. Because even if you're really small and you have a cybersecurity, say you have a data breach through your email, maybe you have a business email compromise. In order to really know what's going on, you really have to get into some forensics. and you really have to figure out what's been taken. And the only way to do that generally is to hire a good company who knows where to look at those forensics, to grab logs and figure out what's been downloading. And it's not just something that anybody can just do and have good information. So, and that type of service costs a bunch of money. It's more expensive than most people realize, especially for the smaller organizations. It can be a lot to eat, and a lot of times those companies that do that have a minimum too. So say if you're 5 people or under, you're paying a 10-person minimum to get those kind of services from most reputable disaster recovery companies. They have a flat rate. So we'll do up to 10 for this amount, and so you're going to pay that chunk. So if you're really small, you're going to pay the same price as a 10-person fix. And then the more expensive, or the bigger you are, the more expensive that's going to get too. So you just have to think. You just have to think about what you're willing to risk, because it can become a really big thing, especially if you're in dental or medical or public schools or something that collects a lot of money, or data rather. I think that's where you really have to look at what your risk level is and know what you're collecting. So I sat down with somebody today who was a nonprofit this morning, and the overall he's, well, I don't think we have anything. You don't think, or you don't know.
Yeah,
there's a real big difference. And as
I love when they say we don't save anything locally, and I say, let me do a CSRA and show you.
Yeah, right, exactly. So it's a matter of we have a responsibility to protect our income. We have a responsibility to protect our employees. If you're a nonprofit, you have a responsibility to protect your donors. And the best way to know whether you're safe or not is to actually do a risk assessment and have somebody look into that for you, so you actually know where your data is at. And if you don't have any, you've got peace of mind.
Yeah. We did a CSRA for a client last week, and they had 28,000 PII hits on their work.
What's a CSRA for those listening? That might
cybersecurity risk assessment. It's where we look at what the risks are going on in that network and where the dangers lurk. And they had 28,000 private pieces of information out there. And this is a client that doesn't handle much private information, but they had some credit cards stored on there. They had Social Security stored on there for every employee and every past employee. And that sounds like, oh, that's probably not a lot, even though it is. But they had nothing in the dark web, which floored us. But they had 28,000. And when we showed that to them, they said, well, we can go through and clean that. And we stopped for a second. I stopped dead in my tracks, and I just was silent. And I said, do you have time to go clean up 28,000 records on your network? And this is like a 10 to 12 user network. And they said, oh, well, isn't there a tool that can go delete it all for us? I said, so you're going to get rid of all these records that potentially could be
important.
They're important. And they just kind of said, oh, okay, that's really not feasible. But, it's the amount of data that we have out there, even on what some people think are small, tiny networks, it's just phenomenal.
And then we're all storing stuff on 365. And so those can get compromised. We're still seeing business email compromises like crazy. It's just a matter of protecting. We're not saying you shouldn't hold on to information. We're saying you should hold on to it securely, protected the right way. And that way you're able to just make sure that you've done everything to protect your clients, your donors, your patients, whatever that is in your particular business.
So what can we do what information can we offer people to, wipe away those digital footprints on the web and on their network?
So there's this saying if it's on the internet, it's there forever. And while that is largely true, you can do a couple of things. Take a fresh look at your website and your marketing content. Are you giving away more information than you should? Or remove any detailed mentions of internal tools, staff, emails, client names, anything that's not absolutely necessary for credibility or something, remove it. You know, in your personal life as well, when you post things, you know, just make sure that there's no sense, you know, that there's nothing that they can piece together in there, you know? Or if you're using security questions and things like that, maybe make them irrelevant to your real life and put those answers in a password manager and use a password manager. If everything is made up on the spot, then you don't have to worry about someone remembering something that doesn't exist, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I have trouble remembering some of that stuff. Some of the, you know, all those questions.
I don't know my birthday. Why would I know my birthday?
Some days. Look at dark web. Look at the dark web. Have your IT provider or contact one of us. We can look at a dark web and see what's out there. The amazing amount of information that sits out there in the dark web. Get that scan done. See what's out there. See if the password you're currently using is sitting out there. Even like if you have an Apple phone, you know, if you go to your passwords on Apple, and it'll tell you how many instances your password is out there in the dark web. It's not going to tell you where. That's where you need a dark web scan, but have somebody look at that dark web out there to see what's going on.
Yeah. Well, and I think that applies, like, especially if you're a CEO, you want to also protect your own assets. I got into this thing, not sponsored, but if they want to reach out, they can always reach out to John at truit.io and we may sponsor you. But there's something I found on some, it was one of those sponsored commercials for a YouTube channel, and it's called Cloaked. And they actually go through and look up your information on data broker websites, and then they actually go out and send an email to remove it on your behalf. So, like, for example, I started about 2 months ago, and so far they've removed 366 records off of my the web. From data brokers. Plus, there's some other instructions. They'll give you instructions on how to remove it from other ones that they can't. So, like, if you need to actually physically go to some of those places. So, for example, data brokers, a good example of those are like find my phone number, find, you know, reverse lookups, things like that are all places where that information exists. And so I think the goal is try to keep your footprint as little as possible. Now, again, we're all on social media, and a lot of us are using it for business. But I also think you should protect, like, your where do you live? You should protect your home address. You should protect all those things, especially if you're an owner. I think it's important so that you watch all that stuff so people can't spoof your information or trick you. And the less amount of information you have online, the better. And I think the other thing that most people don't think about is I think we should be purging information on a regular basis. So, for example, once a client's gone or once a patient's gone, now there are regulations within your own industry, so this may not apply for you, but in some cases, you can take that information and get rid of it. In some cases, you may have to keep it for 7 years, so you've got to put it in a secure location for that time that's off of your normal place of storing all your files. So put it offline, put it somewhere stored, put it in a secure location, and purge like crazy as you go and start thinking through what are you going to do with your old data that's not needed for current business, but might have important information on it that others should not have. I think that's a super important thing to be thinking about.
I like that you brought that up, John, because I've run into scenarios, and you guys give me your take on this, where someone doesn't want to delete emails, and the email PST or the storage is getting to such a ridiculous size that it's affecting the production and the proficiency of their computer. And not only is that bad for their productivity, but if someone gets into your email and then has access to something from a client that you had 10 years ago, you're still on the hook for that if you're housing that data. Any data that you're housing, you're on the hook for. So as John said, if you're done with a client, it's been time, you can set something up in your system where it has like a statute of limitations of, let's say, 5 years
Yeah.
or 2 years or 3 years retention or something, so that you're deleting clients' data when you're not working with them anymore.
Right.
You can't be held liable for someone's information being compromised while it's in your data systems.
Well,
I just want everybody to know that.
And then it's a matter of, okay, say that customer's gone and you are a regulated industry where you have to hold on to that. Put a policy and a plan in place about what you're going to do with that information when it's no longer needed for everyday business. So maybe it needs to be stored for record retention, but you don't need it to operate anymore. I believe it should be separated from your core data.
I had a client recently that I think this might have been last year, an accounting firm. And I said, well, what do you do with all your old records? Oh, we have 2 storage lockers full of the last 23 years of records. And I'm like, what? I said, why physical access to that? I said, you're regulated, but why are you keeping this much data? And after we had that discussion, I think in about a month, they cleared it down to half of a locker worth. And I was like, wow, they actually purged. So, but it's so much easier to do it in the digital world. It's so much easier to just ignore the terabytes of data you might have sitting on your servers or on your drives that you have sitting around in your office. And that's another area. People just toss USB drives, they toss little thumb drives that you plug in, they lose them. Really just watch what you put on there. Those are footprints too. And, people that have that data sitting there, that could just be sitting there for years in someone's desk drawer or, eventually get dropped into a dumpster or dropped on the parking lot on the way out to the dumpster.
Yeah.
So just be mindful of those things.
Yeah, I think you just have to be really careful. And again, like everything, policy is a great way to standardize that method and putting something in place so you know exactly what you're going to do with that data and put together a plan for what that's going to look like.
All right, so part of putting together a plan, why don't we give them some last minute tips while we wrap this up? What can they do right now to kind of their hygiene, their digital hygiene?
So take 5 minutes, go on Google, go on your favorite search engine, DuckDuckGo, Opera, Bing, type your name in, type your personnel in, type your company in, type your mom's name in, type your dad's name in, type your kids' names in. Kids nowadays have a lot of data out there of what they're doing, but, type people's names in, see what's out there, start doing a search and, look at these data brokers and see what they have on you.
Yeah.
Brian just mentioned like 3 search engines I've never heard of. All right, those are good. Those are good. So mine would be look at your company's website, look at the about us, look at the contact pages. What type of information is on there? Do you have your team's direct numbers or direct emails? Yeah. Why don't we remove those and maybe do something like a shared mailbox or something like that, a shared inbox, something that has a little bit more visibility for more people, and something not so direct that they can't target a specific person, right? Email marketing at trueit.io. Don't email John Hansman at trueit.io for marketing stuff.
Well, and that's where good call to action on your website is valuable anyways. So like if you're a sales growth oriented company, you're probably looking for people to do leads off your website. And one of the best ways to do that is do forms and then sync that with your CRM, your customer relations manager. So you're already able to automate, save some time on following up on those leads, nurturing them, all the stuff that, we're not talking about because we're talking about cybersecurity, but marketing side. You can automate a lot of that stuff anyway. So you have a dual purpose. Get your information off your website, protect your information, guard it, and then set up a really good call to action that goes to a form that goes to a way for you to follow up with those people rather than them. I mean, you can have your business phone number, but direct email addresses are dangerous. And scammers all the time are looking for that on websites. And that's how they go direct to people. And what's crazy is they can spoof so that they know the CEO's email address and they know the secretary's email address. They can spoof emails that look, if you're not paying attention, like the CEO's email and the other person in the business. So there's a
Absolutely.
lot of reasons why you should just not have your contact info
A
up.
really simple way to combat getting junk and getting your email address out there is when you order stuff online, get a throwaway email account, get an email account from Google or Yahoo or one of the free ones out there, and use that for purchasing everything online, and protect your business email and protect your personal email that you really use every day.
If you're on the Apple platform, Apple already created this for you. So if you're on Apple, they already created a way when you go to a website to order something to use a different email address that then auto forwards to your Apple address that's specifically for that customer. They've got a really cool method of doing that. So if that's a really great thing, you can take advantage of. And I'm with you. I have a buy like a buy email address, a junk email address that I use that doesn't go to everything. And I try to clean out my primary email addresses as well. I think it's important, to just protect your main ways of contacting you and your employees and all those things. Those should be guarded heavily. You're obviously going to be using that to communicate with valid people. Asking you one is just scammers to get that information, start using it against you because you've given away all the email addresses in your company. There should be no company directory with email addresses on your website. So you should have a form. And I know some people don't like it. They feel like it's maybe less personal, but I think that there's a good cybersecurity reason for that. So, and for me, I think if something is out of date, take it down and get rid of it. So on your website, make sure that if you have something that's out of date, change it out. Make sure you keep your records up to date. Make sure you keep your website up to date. And just make sure that you don't have old info laying around that can be used. I think it's not hard to purge. We just have to be aware and we have to be thinking about it.
100%.
Yes. So watch those digital doors and watch those digital windows. Make sure they're locked and make sure that you are protected.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything else to add, guys. We kind of hit the nail on the head on every aspect here.
I think it's just really about taking a breath and thinking through what information you have in your network, on your computers, on your website, and just making a plan and putting policy in place to guard those things. I think that's what we're talking about. That's a big step.
Totally. So give us some ideas. If there's something you want to hear about, please comment so we can get your topics in here for the future.
Yeah, please make sure if you want us to respond to some questions or you have a specific show topic that you want us to talk about, please put it in the comments on one primarily would be the Business and Bytes Facebook or LinkedIn or one of the pages that's broadcasting that's related to the podcast. That would be awesome if you could throw those comments in there. Don't be like Freddie from earlier. This guy. Don't try to advertise your spammy service that you're probably not legit anyways on our website because we're just going to block you. So, but ask them legitimate questions. If you need one of us for something in our perspective corners of the United States or the world, we're all happy to help you navigate through all these things that we just talked about.
And if you just want to come on and ask some questions, we'd love to have you as a guest to ask questions and have a little dialogue.
Absolutely.
So consider that.
I just got an idea. We should bring on someone that hasn't had a business owner that hasn't had any type of conversations with anyone about cyber in any capacity. And then we answer all their questions live. What do you guys think about
there you go. Okay. Sounds fun.
I don't know if I have anyone because I've reached out to everyone in my circle, but let's everybody try to extend those tentacles and let's see if we can get a business owner that hasn't encountered anything or looked it up or hasn't talked to their IT guy about anything cyber, and we try to answer all their questions on a live.
I will pick up as many rocks as I can to find that person.
Yeah, because no one's going to admit that, right?
Yeah.
but definitely, your comments help us. Please make sure you subscribe. We'll make sure we get all these up on the Apple podcasting platforms if you want to listen in your car. And next time on the Business and Bytes, we're going to talk about budget-friendly ways, budget-friendly cybersecurity moves you can take without breaking the bank. Now, none of this is going to replace the things if you're a larger business that you should be doing to protect yourself. But if you're a small business who really needs to, protect your business, but you don't know how, there are some things you can start out doing now. And it's doing those things now that can protect your business while you build up to be able to need a company like ours. But there's also things that, I don't know about budget friendly, but there's best practices you should put in place that are really important. And so those things alone can make a really big difference in addition to all the other things that we as managed service providers provide you. So with that, anything else, gentlemen, before we wrap this thing up?
Questions are free. Ask us as many questions as you want.
That's exactly it. Feel free to reach out.
Good to go.
I'm good.
Awesome,
Thanks,
guys. Okay, well, we'll see everybody next week. Thanks for tuning in, and definitely make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and join us for the conversations so you know when we pop up. Usually it's around this time on Wednesdays. So we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, guys. Bye.